Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. As Michigan fans, I think we all knew we would be having this conversation at some point. I think a lot of us were hoping it'd be 12 months down the line, but here we are right now, Tuesday afternoon. Wink Martindale receiving a lot of NFL interest. Sounds like he's going to be interviewing for a couple of defensive coordinator positions at the NFL level over the next couple of days. Want to have a couple of different conversations. One, talk about what Wink Martindale did with this Michigan defense in 2024. Talk about what's going on with this Michigan program as it pertains to the defensive side of the football. And this, I believe, is a really important talking point. As frustrating as it is at times for us Michigan fans to seemingly go through a defensive coordinator search every single offseason, this is how you want it to look. Look, if your coordinator hires are not elevating their coaching careers, you're probably not making good hires, right? And you look at the last three defensive coordinators for Michigan: Mike McDonald, now a head coach in the NFL. You look at Jesse Minter, a defensive coordinator in the NFL, probably going to be a head coach relatively soon. And now Wink Martindale getting interest to go back to the NFL. The way I look at it, that's how it looked with Nick Saban. That's how it looks with Kirby Smart. I mean, you look at Kirby Smart, guys like Todd Monken, guys like Dan Lanning. Then you look at Nick Saban. It's a laundry list of coaches that went to Alabama for a year or two and then went on with their coaching career and kind of took that next step. When you have something that looks like that, all of a sudden the Michigan defensive coordinator position becomes one of the most attractive positions that you see across the country. This is going to allow Sharon Moore to pick up the phone and call just about anybody in the country in terms of, hey, are you interested in being next defensive coordinator at Michigan? Everybody's picking up the phone because this is a position where if you take it, you're probably going in the right direction with your coaching career. And so, yeah, it's a frustrating problem to have for us Michigan fans, but it's also a good problem to have. And it's going to allow Michigan to consistently make really good hires on the defensive side of the football. I want to get into Wink Martindale first. Then I want to talk about some candidates that could be good options for Michigan if Wink Martindale does, in fact, go to the NFL. Before we get into it, as always, as to the Michigan fans, talking the recruiting trail, talking the transfer portal, now talking about the coaching staff. It's been a very busy but exciting last couple of weeks. And as a Michigan fan myself, I've been having a blast. The amount of support y'all have shown the fellas means the absolute world. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, let it fly with defensive coordinator candidates in the comment section, because if this news does happen, we're going to be talking a lot about a lot of different names over the next couple of weeks. So would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. Appreciate you guys. Without further ado, let's first get into Wink Martindale. And, for the Michigan fans who've been rocking with the fellas for the last couple of months, y'all know at times I was a little bit critical of Wink Martindale. I felt like the defense might have not been getting maximized early in the 2024 season. Just hand up, maybe just a bad take. But I also think, Wink Martindale runs a really complicated scheme. And as the personnel, as the Michigan football players on the defensive side got more comfortable with what Wink Martindale wants to do, it turned into one of the more dominant defenses that we saw in the country in the month of November. That's what excited me most about Wink Martindale coming back in 2025. Is it finally clicked? You look at the game against Northwestern, gave up 127 total yards, 6 points. Then Ohio State, a team that is basically a buzzsaw on offense in the college football playoffs, 250 total yards. They only scored 10 points. Then you look at the bowl game against Alabama, down a lot of really good players on that Michigan defense, guys like Mason Graham, Kenny Grant, not playing, 260 total yards, only scored 13 points. This defense really started to emerge as one of the best units in the country late in 2024. Seemingly going into 2025 with Wink Martindale, we're going to look at one of the best defenses in the country. In a perfect world, Wink Martindale's coming back for one more year. And look, when we talked about this hire 12 months ago, we knew this wasn't going to be a 5+ year thing. Like, if Wink Martindale did a good job, you knew he at some point wanted to go back to the NFL. I don't think that's all much of a surprise for Michigan fans. I think we were just hoping maybe it'd be 2 or 3 years and not just one. So the ideal situation for me is Wink Martindale comes back, because I think this defense really started to turn the corner. Now, if he does not come back, there's a couple of different conversations you have to have. One, to me, it immediately becomes one of the more enticing jobs that you see across the country. Again, Sharon Moore would be able to pick up the phone, and pretty much everybody across the country will answer that phone call. I think, secondly, Michigan was paying Wink Martindale $2.5 million. He's one of the most highest. He was, I believe, the highest paid assistant coach that we saw in the country. What does that tell me? Hey, Wink Martin, you got some funds to go out and hire an elite defensive coordinator, and money won't be a problem because Wink Martindale was getting a ton of it. Options. That's probably where you want to go to next. If Wink Martindale does go to the NFL, we'll do a whole deep dive on a bunch of names. But right now, early in this process, I think a couple of names kind of come to mind. I think one, if you want continuity, if you want to say, hey, we were doing some really good things on the defensive side of the football late in 2024, we kind of want to keep the good thing going in 2025. I do think Lamar Morgan is a really good option. Now, is he a proven power forward defensive coordinator? Not, and that's probably the con about Lamar Morgan. But you go back to he has experience as a defensive coordinator. Was the defensive coordinator at Louisiana last year. And I think wouldn't be surprised if that was in the back of Sharon Moore's mind when you hire Lamar Morgan, saying, hey, maybe not ready quite yet to take over this Michigan defense, but we know Wink Martindale's probably not going to last forever. That's probably in the back of Sharon Moore's mind when he hired a guy like Lamar Morgan. He's got experience calling a defense. I think he did a very good job with this Michigan secondary in the 2024 year. I mean, talk about if you were to say Michigan didn't play that Ohio State game without Will Johnson did not play in that Ohio State game, and Michigan was still really able to deal with that Ohio State defense, I would have given Lamar Morgan a 2-cap. It's like that. That's some really good stuff that Lamar Morgan showed. And then he has experience being a defensive coordinator. This would make a lot of sense. And I think lastly, he's emerged as one of the best recruiters on this Michigan staff. And so you're elevating a young coach that's clearly going in the right direction, that maintains kind of the continuity for this Michigan defense, and is a guy that is going to be an ace on the recruiting trail, which probably Wink Martindale was not a strong suit, being an NFL guy. That would make a lot of sense. I think number two, Dan Lynn. I mean, he obviously has connections to the Baltimore Ravens coaching tree on defense, which has been very successful for Michigan over the last couple of years. So not only does he have that NFL experience that we love, and that made Mike McDonald and Jesse Minter and Wink Martindale such elite DCs, but then secondly, he's come down to the college football level and proved it. He took over UCLA and in one offseason made that UCLA defense one of the best units in the country. Then he goes to USC, and it wasn't an elite defense in 2024, but he pretty much maximized that team. I mean, USC had some serious problems on the defensive side of the football. They had one defensive lineman that went over 300 pounds, were not very deep on the defensive line, had question marks at linebacker. That was about as good as USC could have been on defense. And so Danton Lynn, not only an NFL guy that has some of those ties to the Baltimore Ravens that Michigan's like to go to, but also has proven it at the collegiate level, being a defensive coordinator. To me, this would be a really good hire as well. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of names that I expect you guys to throw in the comment section. Look, you can't go wrong. I don't think there's a name that's off the table. Michigan maybe back in 2020, 2015, there's probably some guys that wouldn't be interested in coming to Michigan. I don't think there's a coach that would not be interested in taking this Michigan DC job. And that's what's going to make it really fun. Also, Michigan has the funds to really go out and get an elite one too. Let it fly in the comments section. Obviously, a storyline that we will be monitoring over the next couple of days. Ideal situation, Wink Martindale stays for one more year, and then we have this conversation next year. If he does, in fact, leave to the NFL, I don't think it's the end of the world. And I think Michigan will be able to go out and hire a really good defense coordinator. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later.